The rain had already soaked through the city by the time the little girl appeared at the edge of the bus stop, clutching a torn backpack and staring at the road like it had betrayed her. People passed without slowing down. Cars splashed dirty water onto the sidewalk, and in that ordinary careless moment, Arman Halim felt something crack open inside his chest, because he knew exactly what it felt like to be invisible, desperate, and alone. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a second to pause. If you believe kindness still matters in a world that moves too fast, please like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Arman was a poor single father, the kind people didn't notice unless they were blocking a doorway or counting exact change at the grocery store. He worked as a daytime maintenance helper in an old commercial building near the river, earning just enough to keep the lights on and food on the table for his 7-year-old son, Rayan. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him with grief that never really healed and responsibilities that never paused. Life had become a quiet routine of exhaustion, sacrifice, and silent prayers that tomorrow wouldn't be worse than today. That afternoon, Arman had finished his shift early because the elevator repairs were delayed. He was walking home, thinking about whether the rice at home would be enough for dinner, when he noticed the girl. She looked about 10 or 11, her hair neatly tied despite the mess around her, her shoes far too clean for someone who had been wandering long. There was fear in her eyes, but also something else, something steady, almost disciplined. He didn't look homeless. She looked lost. Arman slowed down, arguing with himself. He had no spare money, no spare energy, no room in his life for complications. But he also had a son waiting at home, and he knew what lessons silence would teach if he simply walked away. The girl noticed him staring and instinctively stepped back, tightening her grip on the backpack. Arman raised his hands gently, not to scare her, and asked if she was okay. Her voice, when she finally responded, was small but clear. She said she couldn't find her way home, and her phone had died. The sensible thing would have been to take her to the police station, but it was closed for renovations, and the nearest open office was several kilometers away. The rain was getting heavier, the daylight fading into a grey blur, and the girl's lips were trembling, though she tried hard not to cry. Arman thought of his late wife, how she used to say that kindness delayed was often kindness denied. Against every practical instinct, he made a decision that would quietly change everything. He told her she could stay at his place just for the night, until they figured things out in the morning. His apartment was small, barely 2 rooms above a noisy street, but it was clean. Rayan looked surprised when he saw the girl step inside, but he smiled anyway, the kind of open smile only children have. The girl introduced herself as Zara Adil, her voice careful, as if she'd been taught not to say too much. Arman offered her dry clothes that belonged to Rayan's cousin and served dinner without asking questions. He noticed how politely she ate, how she folded her wet clothes neatly, how she thanked him with a seriousness far beyond her age. That night, while the rain softened into a steady rhythm against the window, Arman couldn't sleep. He worried about everything. What if her parents were frantic? What if he had done something foolish? But there was also a strange sense of peace in the apartment. Zara sat at the small table, drawing quietly with Rayan, laughing softly, like a child allowed to be a child again. Before bedtime, Arman made up a mattress on the floor and gave Zara the blanket his wife used to love. She whispered a thank you that carried more weight than the words themselves. Morning arrived bright and clear, sunlight filling the apartment as if nothing bad could exist in such a warm glow. Arman prepared simple breakfast and asked Zara again about her home. This time, she shared more. She said she had argued with her driver, run away in anger near a shopping district, and panicked when she couldn't find her way back. She didn't say much about her family, only that her father was very busy and that she wasn't supposed to walk alone. Arman didn't push. He had learned that trust bloomed best when given space. As the day unfolded, Arman took Zara with him to his workplace, thinking it safer than leaving her alone. The building staff noticed her immediately, whispering questions, some suspicious, some curious. Zara stayed close to Arman, helping him hold tools, watching attentively, never complaining. During lunch, Arman shared stories about Rayan's school and his late wife, surprising himself with how easily the words came. Zara listened like every detail mattered. For the first time in years, Arman felt seen. By early afternoon, everything changed. A convoy of sleek black cars stopped abruptly outside the building, drawing attention from every window. Men in suits rushed out, speaking urgently into phones. One of them spotted Zara through the glass doors and froze. Within moments, the entire scene shifted into chaos and relief at the same time. The man ran inside, calling her name with a voice thick with emotion. Zara stiffened, her face draining of color. She looked at Arman, fear and apology tangled in her eyes. That was when Arman learned the truth. Zara Adil was the daughter of Samir Adil, a self-made millionaire known across the city for his construction empire and ruthless business reputation. The search for her had shut down half the district overnight. Security teams, police contacts, and private investigators had been combing the city since dawn. And here she was, safe, fed, protected, by a man who didn't even own a proper bed for guests. Samir arrived moments later, his expensive suit wrinkled, his composure cracking as he dropped to his knees in front of his daughter, holding her like she might disappear again. He looked up at Arman with eyes full of shock, gratitude, and disbelief. He tried to speak, but emotion stole his voice. Arman stood awkwardly, suddenly aware of his worn shoes and stained uniform. He said simply that Zara was safe, that she had been brave, that she was a good child. The gratitude that followed was overwhelming. Samir insisted on taking Arman and Rayan to lunch, insisted on rewards, insisted on help. Arman refused money at first, his pride flaring, but Samir saw something deeper. He saw a man who had given kindness without calculation, who had protected a child without knowing her worth in numbers. Instead of cash, Samir offered opportunity. He offered Arman a stable job within his company, one with fair pay, healthcare, and flexibility to care for his son. After a long pause, Arman accepted, not for himself, but for Rayan's future. Life didn't transform overnight, but it began to move forward. Arman's days became less heavy, his nights less anxious. Rayan enrolled in a better school. Zara visited often, bringing laughter, books, and warmth into their home. Samir, humbled by the experience, softened in ways no business deal had ever achieved. He started a foundation quietly, focused on helping single parents and lost children, inspired by a man who had once opened his door without knowing why. And now, before the story closes, if this journey touched something inside you, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, and share it with someone who still believes humanity matters. Your engagement tells us these stories are worth telling. Special request, comment below what kindness means to you, because your words might inspire someone else who is struggling right now. Arman never became rich in the way people usually measure wealth, but every morning, as sunlight filled his once empty apartment and laughter echoed where silence used to live, he understood something profound. Kindness doesn't always return the way you expect, but it always returns the way you need. And sometimes, letting a lost child stay for one night can lead you back to a life you thought you had lost forever.